I think it's a pleasure for the three of us as sustainability practitioners to be here talking to a new audience like tech, so thanks for having us. Alexa, 4 years ago, Dow and DuPont announced a big merger to create a new company. Tell me about this new organization. This isn't your grandparents' Dow or DuPont anymore, is it?
Great start. It absolutely isn't. What I'm excited about is we have repositioned ourselves as a specialty materials company that is completely driven by science and innovation. And what we're doing is we're pointing our science to the big problems that matter. What I like to think about for this audience, think of us as a 217-year-old startup, right? Rich heritage, super rich, but we're enabling the future, thinking differently, behaving differently. And our purpose is empower the essential innovations for the world to thrive, which is going to connect beautifully to sustainability.
The world needs innovations. We have some big challenges ahead of us. So why are we here talking about DuPont's sustainability aspirations to a tech audience? You guys have an announcement, I think, to make today.
We do. This morning we announced our new sustainability goals for the company. We've got 9 great goals. And the reason that they're important is sustainability and innovation absolutely go together to solve the world's biggest problems. 3 goals on innovating now, protecting now, and empowering now. And what that means is being able to put our capabilities to work with many collaborations around what's most important to society today. Bringing together technology, like the technology that this audience does, enabling science. Imagine what we can do today and into the future on biotechnology, accelerating with big data. And the other side is also true. This morning, some panelists talked about 5G. 5G can't happen without brand new materials that enable the success of 5G. Sure. So the two go together, technology and innovation with science and sustainability.
I love that you had now after each of those pillars that you mentioned, because we can't wait anymore, can we?
Absolutely.
No, absolutely not. So I think we have a poll, if you all could take out your phones, and if we could get it up on the stage before we flip it over to Vince. And as that's coming up, Vince, I just want to welcome you to the stage. Adobe, you guys probably talk to a tech audience all the time. Why are you here talking about sustainability when you could be talking about a slew of other stuff that you guys are doing?
I focus on sustainability. First of all, though, I would like to say thanks to Lee and Bloomberg for hosting us and you, and thank you for being here. Taking time out of your day to share and learn ideas, I mean, that's what it's all about. That's probably the place where I really want to start with this, is that I think about some of the things that I do with my technology peers, and we all talk to each other. And there's a lot that we've accomplished over the last few years. I'm sure we'll get to some of that. But those who go it alone, that's over. The days of going it alone are over. This is the age of collaboration. Collaboration is everything. In order to solve these problems that we're going to be talking about and that you are very well aware of, you cannot go it alone. So if there's a message and a takeaway, maybe a call to action for everyone here, it's to reach out to your peers, reach out to your friends, reach out to your NGOs, politicians even, because there's so much that we can be doing together rather than getting mired in facing these problems by ourselves.
Great. So what were the results of the poll? I think I saw it was technology and policy are going to be the two things, or government that we think are going to be moving the needle. I think we're going to lean into that a little bit more, but to both of you, the world is ripe with challenges and the outlook, quite frankly, doesn't look very promising. Where can tech help and why? Vince, you want to go first?
Yeah, so I actually love this question because people do, especially to a sustainability person in tech, they say, it feels like a challenge we're never gonna, it feels dire. And I say on the contrary, this is our finest hour. This is what we own. This is the part that we're good at. And if I were to think about some of the things that why tech has been good at this, because there's been a lot of pressure. I mean, frankly, everybody knows that there's pressure in tech to be good in this space. And if I think about some of the things that are going on, like I'm from Silicon Valley. I live in the Bay Area, but I think about what technology could have done to prevent or maybe even change or mitigate what's going on there right now with the fires and the bad air and all this sort of thing. And then I think about what it can do. And if I look at that, and I think about the promise of technology, and I'll just give you a very quick example of something that we're doing with Adobe. And it involves my good colleague Alexa. So one of my buddies, my colleague from Adobe, is the head of 3D technology and virtual reality. And what he's doing is he's using this technology with our customers to help them upfront or upstream to help do digital prototyping. And why is that a great thing? Because you can reduce the material use when you're making prototypes. You don't have to ship stuff from China and build it and then throw part of it away. It's like you're doing it digitally, and it's realistic enough that it can give you a really good idea of what the final product is going to be, which would ultimately involve some material outcome. And then at the other end of it, what we used to call end of life, and now we're calling circularity, is the design for circularity. And I know that this product is doing this with a lot of our customers so that these things that are produced don't go to landfill. They're basically starting to now go to full circularity, where every bit of the product is going to be used. That's really one of those goals. And I think technology, and this is one example, is the vehicle for being able to solve some challenges like that. So.
Great. And Alexa, you were saying that he can't do his job without you guys doing your job, and you can't do your job without them doing their job. Tell me how that works together.
We're absolutely linked. I think what we talked about this morning, the future of AI, of cloud computing, of whatever it takes for Adobe to win, requires new materials, requires new ways of thinking, requires agile innovation.
Sure.
So collectively, we have to do it. I think the magic that we can all bring is what actually are the big problems that need to be solved for the world.
Sure.
And that is this intersection of sustainability and technology. What DuPont does is we take our inspiration from the United Nations Sustainable Development Goals. For tech people, we love a roadmap. There's nothing better than a good roadmap. The United Nations SDGs are that roadmap of saying, here are the big problems: health and wellness, food, water, reducing inequality. And by technology, whether it's the data side of technology or the science side of technology, we collectively can point that to where it matters.
Sure.
For DuPont, probiotics, improving health and wellness, improving water security and water safety and water access around the world. We have the science to do it, and the technology community has the capabilities to bring it all together. So it is a collaboration, relentless collaboration. I totally agree with Vince.
Great. For those of you who don't know what SDGs are, I think sometimes we take the acronyms for granted. They stand for the United Nations Sustainable Development Goals, and they're basically a roadmap for humanity, that roadmap that you talked about. I think we have some slides that we also want to share that show some of these large global problems, if we could get those back on. But Alexa, you said now. Remind me what those three pillars were that you were doing: innovation.
Innovate now, protect now, and empower now.
And empower now. So what is DuPont doing now to solve big global challenges like some of the ones that we're seeing on the stage that are a result of sustainability challenges and climate change?
So on Innovate Now, the most important thing we can do is point our science and innovation to the big problems, to reducing hunger, to improving climate, to improving electrification of vehicles. We're doing all those things. On Protect Now, it's around addressing circularity, around addressing lower waste and improving safety, as well as climate action. Number one, I was just in Lisbon.
Yes.
For the World Business Council for Sustainable Development. Everyone understands climate action is urgent, and DuPont has a role to play.
DuPont has a huge role to play.
We absolutely do, not only for our footprint, but more importantly for the innovation that we provide to make a difference.
Yeah, go ahead, please.
I was just going to say, on the last one on Empower Now, what I think is most important here and most new for DuPont is putting under sustainability all of the elements that involve people and well-being. So communities, fulfillment of our employees, and we know diversity and inclusion is critical. All of those together are what help solve the problems that were on the chart.
The now part.
The now, do it now.
The now part. So the slides before that showed the three levers that we could change, I feel like we're sleeping a little bit on the business community, right? Business really has a power to move the needle forward. So piggybacking on that and looking at it through a business lens, one of my favorite questions to pose to leaders like yourself is sustainability a cost center or a revenue opportunity? Vince, you said you love that question. I'm going to let you go first.
Yeah, I've been evangelical about that for sure. Because I do not think sustainability should be a cost center. It should be either a revenue driver, a brand uplift. It could be any of these things that you could see do not sort of pull revenue from the business. And to that point, I'm just going to give you an example from 2018. And I mean, my colleagues do the math on this sort of thing. But in a year, last year for Adobe, a year where we did 2 over $1 billion acquisitions of companies, our revenue grew 25%. Our FTE, or employee population, grew about 19%, and our emissions per employee dropped by 25%. And they say, okay, well, that's normalized. Well, I'll tell you what, for absolute emission, it dropped about 9 to 10%. So in this year of massive growth, our environmental impact decreased. Now, there's a lot of things that get a company to that point. Operational excellence. I could put you to sleep in about a minute talking about energy efficiency. but that's part of it. Some of these things that are just good business.
Good business.
Decisions. And I have to say that doing the right thing is ultimately paying itself off. Because again, the brand lift that we're getting from this sort of thing with our customers, with our investors, with the NGO community, and especially with employees, I mean, you can't buy that. So absolutely, sustainability is a...
The adage that's thrown around a lot in our industry, you're doing well by doing good.
Exactly.
Yeah. Alexa, you want to take that question, or did Vince nail it?
I think he nailed it.
Good.
What I'll add is just that for DuPont, it's absolutely a value center. This is about creating value for our customers, value for our shareholders. And if we solve these problems well and right, it's value for society. That's what we're in it for.
So this is the biggest question that everybody in the office is wondering. What's it like having the name Alexa in 2019?
It's an awesome name, isn't it? It was so undervalued.
Probably go to your friends' houses and they say your name and then crazy lights go on and music starts playing.
No early morning conference calls with people doing calls from home.
So let's take a step back and go back to the merger that you guys just completed. How did sustainability factor into any of the big organizational changes that occurred?
Sustainability became an integral part of our business strategy. So everything that we do, innovation and sustainability, is embedded in the way that we think about our businesses and the way we design the company. My role, and you know I feel this way, I have the best job in the company.
We all do.
My role is the integration of innovation and sustainability together to create value. So it's embedded in what we do, but also it's embedded in being this new entrepreneurial company.
Sure.
Right? So we're changing mindsets, how we're faster, how we're more collaborative, how we act like owners. So I think the embedding of sustainability, value creation into all of our businesses has been really exciting, and it's got so much potential to deliver.
Sets you up very nicely for the long term, doesn't it?
Absolutely.
So Vince, does sustainability position Adobe as an employer of choice, especially in a very competitive industry for talent like yours?
This is such a great question, because people tend to think that the technology companies are viciously competing with each other, every day on everything. And that simply is not the case. We are customers of each other. We all use each other's products. What we compete on is talent. And that talent expects us to be very, very good at sustainability. And I'll be upfront. Like when I started at Adobe in 2013, I'm convinced that it was because of the transition from box software, which I can't even imagine would exist at this point, right? So things have changed a lot. Went to cloud, and the business has been taking off ever since. And there's been just some magical things that our leadership have done with the business. But that move alone reduced the environmental impact of the product from a box thing to a clouded software by over 90%. And this is something that I think the employees take heart of. It's like, okay, my product's actually, it's going in the right direction. And then I remind them, and I say, well, we have science-based targets, and we promise and we've committed to power every part of our clouds with renewable energy. So you could feel really good that the product that's finally reaching the customer is going to an emissions of 0 at some point. So without offsets or unbundled recs, which I don't believe in, we could get into a discussion of that.
Good for you. So, it's hard to do.
Yeah, when I first set the goal, we were net zero, net carbon 0, right? Right on? No, because when you do that, you offset, and it might be for your campus, right? And so you throw money, revenue, at doing that, And I look out the window and I see the Children's Discovery Museum, and in the other direction there's a library, and in the other place there's the Tech Museum. What are we doing for the community? And that's really when you have to ask the question, is the thing that I'm doing in this sustainability initiative the right thing for us and the communities where we work and live? And I think decarbonizing the grid and trying to bring renewable energy into our business, which then brings it to everyone else, is the right thing. So that's how I've lived by this sort of sustainability objective for those goals.
Wonderful.
And it's working. So.
Good to hear that. So the same question to you, Alexa. At DuPont, is sustainability something your employees want, tolerate, or demand?
Oh, it's the latter. They demand. And not only our current employees, but as Vince said, our future talent.
Sure.
I spend a lot of time recruiting on college campuses for PhDs. Absolutely know and love DuPont for science and want to know way more about what we're doing on sustainability. So I think the purpose that we have, empowering the world with the essential innovations to thrive, that's our jumping off spot for being active in empowering people, empowering our communities, driving diversity and inclusion. Those topics are at the top of our agenda, right? Making a real difference there. That's what we're committed to.
What about your customers and your suppliers? Is this something that you're seeing being expressed throughout the entire value chain?
Absolutely, up and downstream. And beyond just our specific value chain, but governments that we work with want to see us making progress. You know, a couple weeks ago, I was actually at the US White House working on bioeconomy. Really important priority for the US. What are the priorities and how does sustainability factor in? And how does diversity of talent, how does diversity and inclusion feed innovation to drive a better bioeconomy for the United States? That logic flow is perfect, and we should be celebrating that that's happening.
I think so, for sure. Vince?
Yeah, I was just going to add that I know that there's a lot of startup people here. If you're not looking at sustainability as a way to hire excellent talent, you should be. One of the things that I know for sure is that when we took stands, and I actually wrote op-eds and policy advocacy for cap and trade in California, the original Paris Accords thing, which we are still in, which is the title of that sort of thing. But taking stands on that is really important to this talent. And I have to say that if you don't take a stand, you've taken a stand. If you don't have a position, you've stated a position. Remaining quiet is a very big signal to your employees. And then what do you do? And I think we can all sort of see what's happened to companies that have taken that sort of position and then later scrambled to catch up with what they could be doing. So I guess my advice is to think about it early. I mean, you know, how engaged you need to be is really up to your business, but I do think that for engaging your talent, making them happy where they work, making them productive where they work, you have to have some sort of ethos around sustainability and climate.
Absolutely.
So Alexa, looking at the landscape, the different things you could do in this space, policy, partnerships, collaboration, and action, is it harder to achieve sustainability goals today than maybe it was 5 years ago?
Oh, I'd say it's just the opposite. It's actually easier. The reason I'd say that is we now can activate and mobilize all the collaborators that it takes to solve this problem. I think these are really challenging problems to solve, so we can't do it alone. It takes universities, it takes NGOs, it takes startups, it takes governments, and I think the time's right. It gets back to now.
Yes.
There's urgency. Everyone knows that we have to translate purpose into action, and then start these uncommon collaborations where together we can make it happen.
I think sustainability is the biggest business opportunity of the 21st century, to be honest with you. Real quickly, put on your futurist hat for a moment. This room is full of folks with big ideas and money to invest in them. What does sustainability look like in 10 years, and where does the opportunity lie? And you each have about 10 seconds to answer that question.
So I'll say in 10 years, we're in 2030, we collectively have reimagined what does smart education look like? What's smart healthcare look like? What is the benefit of smart cities around the world, not only for sustainability, but for driving away inequality? I'm really inspired by it, and we can do it.
Great, thank you. Vince?
Yeah, I have to look at why you are all here and what I started out saying about sharing ideas and that sort of thing. This is a technology group digital transformation is going to be incredibly important. I mean, it already is for transitioning from just ridiculous workflows to something that's digital and easy and that sort of thing. But I think the big challenge here, and this is another call to action for everyone, is we have to think about how we're going to bring everyone along with us. How are we going to educate some of the creatives, at least at my company, that's what we talk a lot about, the creatives of tomorrow. I mean, how are we going to reskill individuals so that this isn't scary, it's an opportunity? And how are we going to look at business leaders and say, modernize or go extinct? Because I think these are some of these things that will be addressed. If I look 10 years back, things looked really different. If I'm looking 10 years forward, they're going to look incredibly different too. And we have to start sort of putting the North Star there and working towards it.
Great. Thank you. I could talk to you guys all day, but they're not going to let me. Thank you so much.